Welcome to Shas Illuminated. Please enjoy the following shiur.
We are beginning tonight's shiur in Siman Tov Reish Nun Aleph. We are up to Sif Gimel, the last line on page 246. The Mechaber says in Sif Gimel, Iter, a lefty, nota lulav biyamin kol adam. The Mechaber paskins that a lefty takes the lulav in a regular person's right hand, and he takes it in his right hand. The esrog bismol kol adam. The basar yaminu smol da alma azlinan velo basar yaminu smol didei. The Mechaber says a lefty does what everyone else does. He goes after the right and left of the world, not after his stronger hand and his weaker hand. So the Mechaber says a lefty will do just like a righty. He'll take the lulav, the hadasim, and the ravos in the right hand, and the esrog in the left hand. The Ramah argues and says, V'yesh omrin da azlinan basar yamin didei. Some say that you go after his right, v'yesh litol halulav biyamin didei, and they say that he should take the lulav in his stronger hand, v'ha'esrog b'smol didei, and the esrog in his weaker hand. V'chein nagu v'chein ikar. That is the minhag and that is the ikar. Halacha says the Ramah that a lefty takes the lulav in the left hand, and he takes the esrog in his right hand. V'im hipech yotza. And if he switches it around, then he is yotzei. V'sholet b'shtei yadav, one who is ambidextrous. Nota halulav b'yamin v'esrog b'smol kechol adam. He'll take the lulav in the right hand and the esrog in the left hand, like all people. Says the Mishabura Sivkoton Yudches. To basar yamin usmol da'alma. This is the shita of the Mechaber that he goes like everyone else. The dafka tefillin shehu da'oraisa. Specifically when it comes to tefillin, which is da'oraisa, iter ozil basar yamin didei. Then a lefty goes after his right hand, his stronger hand. Aval lulav dinetilaso biyamin hu derabanan. But when it comes to lulav, we're holding it in your right hand is only an inya derabanan. Mishum chashivusa ba'alma. Just that we want to put the 3 minim on the right side, the more chashiv side. The yeshbat plus and mitzvahs, because there are 3 mitzvahs over there. So then, iter hu kechol adam, the Mechaber says a lefty is like everyone else. V'tan ha'yesh omrim, and the reason of the Ramah, of the yesh omrim that the Ramah brings down, that a lefty switches it, the stovar da'azlinan basar didei kemo b'tfilin, he says it doesn't matter if it's the Oraisa or the Rabbanan, either way, just like by tefillin, a lefty does the opposite, so too by lulav, he does the opposite, and he takes the lulav in his left hand. Very interesting note over here, note number 31, the Rav Beis Knesset Shu Iter Yad, if there's a Rav who is a lefty, Das Agoner Shel Mazaman Orbach, Sha'av Shebenetila Bebeso Im Noe Kedas Harama Not Halula Bismol Kol Adam V'Ha'esrog B'Yamin, even though when he's taking his lulav and esrog privately in his house, and he follows the Ramah, he would take the lulav in his left hand and the esrog in his right hand. Mikom Makom Benanuim Shebebeis HaKnesses, when he's shaking it in the Beis HaKnesses for Hallel, Uba Kafas Abim, or during Hakafos, Yitol Es HaLulav B'Yamin Kol Adam Kishar Tzibur. He should do what everyone else does, and he should take the lulav in his right hand. Shebechol davar shu b'fnei rabim hamabitim acharav. Anything where the rabbim is looking at him, u'misbonin b'maisav, and they're analyzing his actions, yesh lino keruba da'alma, he should do what most people are doing. B'fnei kavod hatzibur, because of kavod hatzibur. So very interesting psak of a Shlomo Zalman, even though a lefty would take the lulav in his left hand when he's at home, but in shul, if he's the Rav, people are watching him, he should take it in the right hand. V'chein le'inyan shliach tzibur shu itir yad, and so too if the chazan is a lefty, hevi b'sefer nitei gavriel v'shem eitz hasoda sheyitol as halulav b'yamin ha'olam, he also should take the lulav in the right hand, shekevan shu shatz harehu nigrar achar hatzibur, since he is the chazan, he is drawn after the tzibur, v'yesh lo lismoch al shitas ha'mechaber, and therefore he should go after the mechaber, and he should take the lulav like everyone else is doing in his right hand. Continues the Mishabura Vaitis of Koton Yutes bin Hipech Yotza. If he switches it around, he's Yotzei. Hainu, says the Mishabura, Bein Iter u Bein Misha Einu Iter. This is going for lefties and righties, and we discussed this yesterday as well. If he switches the hands, he is Yotzei. In Hipech V'nota Lula Bismolo, if even the righty switches it and takes the lulav in his left hand, V'esrog B'yamino, and the esrog in his right hand, he is Yotza as well. V'yesh Machmir Bazeh, we mentioned this yesterday, the Magen Avram. There are those who are machmir. The alkein tov lachsor v'litlo below bracha, and therefore if you did mess up, even though according to most poskim Yotze, it would be a good idea to go back and take it the right way without making a bracha. Sif Katan Chaf is Sholei B'Shtei Yodav, the ambidextrous person follows the righties. Ratzalomar means to say, Sha'usa Kol HaMalachos B'Shneiam Shava B'Shava, he does all activities equal, left and right. Aval Im Nokel Lo Lasos B'Smol, but if it's easier for him to do certain things with the left hand, Av Sheyochal Lasos Osam Gam B'Yamin, even though he can also do those things with the right hand, but not as well as the left hand, Zelo Mikri Sholei B'Shtei Yodav, that's not called ambidextrous, that's called a lefty, and then he would go after, Lefi the Ramah, his lulav would be in his left hand. Says the Mechaber Vayter Sif Daled, Odom She'ein Lo Yad, a person who Lo Aleino does not have a hand, Nota lulav bizroa, he takes the lulav in his arm, V'chein ha'esrog, and so to the esrog. Says the Mishaburas of Katan Chaf Aleph, She'ein Lo Yad, Ratzalomar means to say, She'ein Lo Yadayim Klal, he has no hands at all. So notel halula bizro'o shel yamin. So then he would take his lulav in his right arm, v'chein ha'esrog bizro'a smol, and he will take the esrog in his left arm. Demik siv ulakachtem biyod. Does the pasuk say you take it in your hand? It just says ulakachtem, you take it. So if you don't have a hand, you take it in your arm. Sefkadon chabez bizro'o hainu beis hashechi. This is talking about like by your armpit. V'im yesh kana, but if he has some part of his arm sticking out, notel b'marpako, then he would take it in his elbow. Dezen nami lekicha mikri, that's also called a lekicha. Aval ein lo zroa klal, if he has no arm whatsoever, ein lito b'peh, he should not take the dalad minim or any of the minim with his mouth. Dezeh lav lekicha hi klal. Says the Pri Megadim, that's not called a lekicha. Even though it doesn't say take it in your hand, that's not called a lekicha. Lekicha is with your hand or your arm, not with your mouth. Ubivikuri Yaakov Cholek Olav Ayin Shon. The Bikuri Yaakov argues, and look over there. Sifkoton Chav Gimel V'chein HaEsrog. We said in the Mechaber, not only should he take his lulav in his arm, he should also take his esrog. V'im yesh lo yad echad. If he only has one hand, yitol halulav ba'oso yad. He should take the lulav in that one hand. Afilu he's small nechsheves etzlo yamin. Even if he only has a left hand, that's considered for him the right hand, because that's the only hand he has. So he should take the lulav in that hand. The esrog bizroa shekenegdo, and the esrog, he doesn't have another hand, so he should take it in his other arm. V'im esher lo litol ha'esrog bizroa, if he's not able to even take the esrog in the other arm, yitol shneim biyado. So with his one hand, he should take the lulav and the esrog bezeh achar zeh. First take the lulav, and then take the esrog, v'yotze bazeh, and he can be yotze with one after the other, kidla kamon, sif yud beis, like we'll see in a few sifim, in Mitzvah Shem and sif yud beis. Says the Mechaber, Vayter sif hey, Yivarech al netilas lulav v'shechiyanu, kodem sheyitol ha'esrog. A person should make both brachos. The al netilas lulav every day, the shechiyanu on the first day, before he takes the esrog, kedei sheyivarech over las yaso. In order that this bracha should be immediately before he performs the mitzvah, so the Mechaber says he makes the brachos before he picks up the esrog. O yafo ha'esrog ad shivarich, or like many people do, he should have the esrog upside down until after he makes the bracha or brachos, and then he flips it over. The Ramah says, v'yavarech mu'umad, he should make the brachos while he is standing, v'lo yavarech rak pam achas bayom, and he should only make the bracha once a day, af al pi shenot lo kama pa'amin. Even if he takes it many times a day, he only makes the bracha once. Says the Mishaburas of Katan Chavdalet Kodem Sheitol HaEsrog. We said he makes the brachos before he takes the esrog. Now I'd like to read note number 36 before we see the Mishabura. The Mechaber is very clear that he first picks up the lulav and then he picks up the esrog, because after all he says, make the bracha before you pick up the esrog. Mashma, you have the lulav, you're making the bracha with the lulav in your hand, and then you pick up the esrog. It's mashma, the order is lulav and then esrog. Says note 36, v'seder lakichas arba aminim kidei lavarach alayim. The order in which one should take the dalad minum to make the bracha, mevur, it's clear from the Mechaber, sheyesh litel es halulav tchila, that you first take the lulav in your hand, v'achar kach es ha'esrog, and afterwards the esrog. V'chein kasav achai adam, v'chein hevi astei chemed, kama poskim. The kasav the kaf achayim, shekein minag ha'olam, that is the minag. Me'idach, on the other hand, on Magen Avraham, hevi b'shem hashla. The Magen Avraham brings down b'shem the shlo sheyito tchila es ha'esrog v'achar kach es halulav. He says do the opposite. First take the esrog and then take the lulav. Mishum sheba pasuk kosav tchila pri es hada v'achar kach kapos tmarim. Take them in the order of the pasuk. It first talks about an esrog, so therefore the Magen Avraham says b'shem the shlo, take the esrog first and then take the lulav. Here's a very interesting idea. And when you finish doing your mitzvah and you want to put them down, Kosav Magen Avram, this same Magen Avram who just told us that you pick up the esrog first and then you pick up the lulav, he says as well, Shianiach halulav tchila v'yacha gacha esrog. When you pick up esrog and then lulav, when you put down lulav and then esrog, v'dima din zel tefillin. He compares this halacha to tefillin, shemeniach kodem esar shel yad v'yacha kach shel rosh, mishum sheba pasla kosav chiluk sharten los al yodecha v'achar kach otodofos beinenecha. As we know by tefillin, we put on the tefillin shel yad first, and then the tefillin shel rosh, because the pasuk has it in that order. Ukeshem misalkom misalet chila hashel rosh v'achar kach shel yad. So says Magen Avraham, the same way by tefillin, whatever goes on first goes off last. So too, you pick up the esrog, it's first in the pasuk, then the lulav, and you put down the lulav, then you put down the esrog. However, hadogol mirvava toma altvarav, he is bewildered by the Magen Avram's words, shekosov she'esalik halulav tchila, that he says to put down the lulav first, v'chein al dimuyav l'tfilin, also he is bewildered by his comparison to tefillin. V'chein kosov asvas emes, and so too argues the svas emes, she'al pia kabbalah ein lidmos inyan zel l'tfilin ayin sham. Kabbalah, there is no comparison between the Dalet Minim and Tefillin. V'chein kosa b'sidur beis Yaakov from Yaakov Emden shedigmara mitzvah yesh l'salik mitchila es ha'esrog. They say you should first put down the esrog, v'achar kach hasalulav, v'chein nog agono shom zam arbach. Stam, an interesting discussion. If anyone wants to be ma'ayin a little more, very interesting discussion. But let's see the Mishaburas, if kadon chav dalet. So we said you make the bracha according to the first side of the mechaber before you pick up the esrog. Mitam de'ein levarech kodem sheyitlenu la'lulav. The reason is that we don't want you making the bracha before you take the lulav. The lo mistaber levarech ba'ot sha'lulav munat bekli. It's not logical to make a bracha when nothing's in your hand. The lulav's in the case, the esrog's in the case, and you're making a bracha. That doesn't make any sense. It's very much before the mitzvah, so you shouldn't make the bracha that early. V'chein ein levarich achar shenotal kol ha'arba minim. You also should not make the bracha after you took in the proper fashion all the dalat minim, the ba'in and over las yasam, because you want the bracha over las yasam before you do the mitzvah, not after you're mekayim the mitzvah by holding all the dalat minim in the proper way. Hilkach, therefore the mechaber tells us, Mevarich kodem sheyitol ha'esrog dezeh over las yasam. Make the bracha while you're holding the lulav, hadas and aravos, before you pick up the esrog. That is called over las yasam. Shem ma'akvin zeh zeh, because the dalat minam are all ma'akiv each other. You can only be yosef if you have all four. Tahainu. That means to say, Shem chaser lo eza min aminim l'kuyam l'yotza. If you're missing one of the dalat minim, and in this case you're not holding the esrog, so you are not yotzei according to anyone, hilkach mikri over las yasam, therefore that would be called over las yasam, and that explains eitzah number 1 of the mechaber, that you will not pick up the esrog until after the brachos. Eitzah number 2 of the mechaber is that you do pick up the esrog, but you pick it up upside down, which is a similar idea because you're not yotzei, but at least you have it in your hand, and then you flip it over after the bracha. Says the Mishaburas, if katan chafei o yafo ha'esrog, or flip the esrog upside down, ha'oketz l'mala, that when you first pick it up, the oket should be upwards, de'eno yotzei bazeh. As we know, you're not yotzei that way, de ba'ina derech kedilasan, like we discussed in the last year, you're only yotzei when you hold it derech kedilasan, and the oketz is not supposed to be on top. Ukedila'el b'sebez. And after the bracha, you will flip over the esrog, and the oketz will be on the bottom. Kederach kedilasan, like we explained yesterday, that is the way it grows. The yotzei bazeh, and then you are yotzei. The ayin bebeis Yosef, the yesh od eitzah shia kodem las yasam. The Beis Yosef brings out another eitzah besides the 2 of the mechaber. Don't pick up the esrog till after the bracha, or pick up the esrog upside down and then flip it over after the bracha. There's another eitzah written by the Beis Yosef, and that is Tahainu sheyechavein shelo lotzeis ba'mitzvah ad achar habracha. We know there's a machlokas, so the mitzvah is shiras kavana or mitzvah is eitzah kavana, but kimat everyone holds that even if you hold mitzvahs ain't shilas kavana, if you have specific intention not to be yotzei, then you're not yotzei. So if you pick it up the proper way, and you have in mind not to be yotzei till after the bracha, so then you're doing it over last yosan, because when you picked it up, you were not yotzei, because you had in mind not to be yotzei, and then you made the bracha, so then you have in mind to be yotzei, then you're yotzei your mitzvah. Sheyito kulam biyado. This way you take them all in your hand in the beginning. The ayin the dir hagrosh kosav dezeho eitzahi ayoser muvcheresh shebekulam. And the Gra says this is the best eitzah that one should do, that he should pick up the dalamin in the regular way, have in mind not to be yotzei till after the bracha, and then have in mind to be yotzei. Let's look in the back of the sefer on page 89 at note number 41. V'chein hoisa and hagas hachazonish. That was the minig of the Chazon Ish. When he made the bracha on Dalminim, his esrog was not upside down. He picked it up initially the way that it grows. This is what you should do, says the Chai Odom. Why is that the better eitzah, says the Chai Odom? By flipping it over, so there's a chance you might make holes in your esrog, it's too risky, you might damage the esrog, and that's the reason the Chai Odom says that it's best to do this eitzah that the Gra prefers as well, that you should have in mind not to be yotzei, but you should hold the dalad midim in the regular way. The Mishnah Berurah continues in Sivkoton Chavav. Ad sheyavarech. Again, this is going on the second eitzah of the Mechaber. Flip over the esrog till you make the bracha. If a person forgot to make the bracha before he took the dalad minim, mevarech achar he can make the bracha afterwards. The hagam haninua hu min mitzvah, because even the shaking of the lulav afterwards is part of the mitzvah, and therefore it still would be over las yasan to make the bracha before the shaking. Let's look in the back of the sefer on page 89 at note number 43. Interesting question. V'ha'im yesh chiyuv livdok es halulav uminav kodem habracha. Is there an inyan every day to check and make sure that your dalad minim are kosher before you make the bracha? Kemoshe matzinu batzitzis la'el, like we learned earlier in Hilchos Tzitzis, shekodem shemavarech chayev livdok ula'ayim b'chutei atzitzis imhem ksherim. We know by tzitzis every day before you make the bracha, you should make sure your tzitzis are kosher. Must we do the same thing every day? Check our lulav, check all our dalad minim, make sure they're still kosher. He says, in this respect, it's not like tzitzis. Why? Mishum the strings of tzitzis stay on your garment for many, many days. And it's common that over a long period of time, they'll eventually become puzzle. Therefore, there's an need to check your tzitzis every day. Masha'en came belulav, which is not the case by a lulav. Shal pia rov be'ez kiniyasam samach lasukos bodku osam bepama rishona hadek hetev. That before you bought your dalad minim, you sure as anything checked it very well, and that was a few days before Yontif. So lo motzi sheyislu bekama yomim muatim. It's very unlikely it's to become puzzle in the few days between the time that you bought it and the end of Sukkot. It's a couple of weeks. It's very unlikely. Therefore, you're not required to check them every day. However, if there's something that goes on with your dalad minim that it's a way that it would normally be common for it to become puzzle, then then there would be an inyan of Ada to check it before the bracha. What would be an example of that? For example, a lulav is being passed around the shul, everyone's using it, it's going through a lot of hands, or maybe your kids are using it and you're not around, and then there certainly would be an inyan to check it, just like by the tzitzis, because it's possible that it became puzzle. Let's finish up the Mishnah Berurah, Sifkoton Chav Zayin. The Ramah told us, V'yivarach me'umah, the bracha is made while you are standing. Unetzilaso tiagam ke me'umah, the taking of the dalad minim should also be when you are standing. Ub'di'eved im osa ha-bracha v'gam ha-mitzvah miyushav yatsa. If b'di'eved you made the bracha, you do the mitzvah while you are sitting, you are 100% yotzei. And the last Mishnah Berurah that we'll do for tonight is on the last thing the Ramah says, that you make the bracha once a day, even if you're taking it many times a day. Says the Mishabura, why would you be taking it many times a day? Kama pa'amel l'hider mitzvah, that's for hider mitzvah. Keminog anshe Yerushalayim kedisa b'gemara, like the minog of the anshe Yerushalayim, the Gemara brings down that they used to walk around the whole day with the lulav and esrog because of hider mitzvah. Let's look at note number 47. Hatam shebenetzilas lulav mavarchen rak pam achas bayom. The reason why when it comes to lulav and esrog we make the bracha only once a day. Afshal sukkah, even though when it comes to sukkah, the chen al tefillin and so too by tefillin, nevarek kol pam she'osa mitzvah av kama pam bayom. If you're putting a tefillin again, later in the day, you chai to make another bracha. If you sit in the sukkah for breakfast and then for lunch, after Yitzir Gemura, vadi you make another bracha. So why is lulav and esrog different? You make a bracha only once a day, even if you take it later on in the day. So bir harach hashulchan shesukkah mitzvasa kol hayom v'chol halayla. Sukkah, as we know, is a mitzvah day and night. V'chein tefillin mitzvah lanicha kol hayom. Tefillin is really a mitzvah to wear all day. Ela she'ein lanu efsharos. We're just not able to do that. We get very busy with other things that we can't wear it, and we're worried that maybe our bodies are not properly clean to wear it. V'lochein mevarach kol pam shenichnas lasukkah sheminach tefillin. But be'etzim it's a mitzvah every second of the day, by tefillin, and by sukkah day and night. So therefore, every time you go in to have a kviyas there, you make a bracha. Ma'ashe'en came by lulav, which is not the case by lulav. Shemitzvah hi ulakachtem lachem. The mitzvah is, as the pasuk says, ulakachtem lachem, v'hainu lakicha pam achas v'dayu. It's to take it one time a day, and that's enough. V'zeh notlo kama pa'amim. And this person who takes it various times during the day, who rak mipnei chib of mitzvah, he's only doing it out of chib of mitzvah, out of love of the mitzvah. V'lochein ein levarach hazeh. There's no inyan making a bracha on the chib of mitzvah. There is no chi of more than one time a day, so you would not make a bracha more than one time a day. We'll stop here and continue Mitzvah Shem next time with Sif Vav.
You have been listening to a shiur from shasilluminated.org. For other shiurim on many topics, or to hear an Iyun shiur on any daf in Shas, including Mara Mekaymas on each shiur, please visit www.shasilluminated.org. To order CDs or for more information, please call 203-312-SHAS. That's 203-312-7427, or email info@shasilluminated.org.